Welcome back, everybody, to In Shambles. I'm Matthew Shuckman. Of course, I'm here, as with always, Nadia Martinez, aka Gotham Geek Girl, as we are here to talk about the Series 2 finale of The Last of Us, Episode 7, Convergence. And as usual, we'll just start off with a quick, no specifics, just what are your thoughts, Nadia, on the episode in general?
I think this might have been one of the strongest episodes.
Okay.
Of course, we usually have our regular kind of complaints about how some things were translated, but overall, I thought it was a really good episode. And there were some things I think that were handled great in this. So we'll get into the more details, but overall, it's a strong episode for me.
Well, I'm gonna be interested to hear about those things because while I don't think it's a bad episode in any way whatsoever, I think some of the other episodes, even when I liked them, but had issues with smaller things, I could feel how good the episode was. This one, I think, and again, I'm trying my best not to just be overcome with confusion as to why they're doing things in certain ways. But I do feel like I this one had me stuck on a lot of that stuff. Not even just what they're doing as far as changes, but the fact that they're being a little more um ham-fisted with going over the same treading over the same material here and there and having
Hmm.
to mention stuff so often when like it feels that like both the first season adaptation and the second game itself were much more nuanced than what they're doing in the TV show version. Maybe that's me. So what did you all right, so it opens, so this one we open up with the, it's not really a flashback, we open up with seeing what prior to Ellie coming back from her jaunt off with Nora. We see a little earlier of Jesse taking care of Dina's leg, and that's basically how it starts off, and that's all fine and good. Nothing really. I don't. There are no notes about that, right?
Yeah, it's like that didn't happen in the game, but it didn't really bother me. I feel like if anything, it kind of gave a little more urgency to like Jesse and everything happening with Dina like being pregnant and like he doesn't know at this moment, but I think it did add a little sense of urgency for like Dina's like prioritizing her life now.
Yeah, and game version is just him being there and seeing how sick she is.
Hmm.
So that they had to give something for him to kind of, question to Ellie what's wrong. I know something's going on, but explain it to me. Even though in this version it's much more of a like a, I think I know, but let me pick at it kind of scenario. Um, but then again, it's like also it's the same. Like when as there's no I don't mind the changes at all, but like it's weird when you see Ellie come back and she's much more energetic and just like, where's Dina? How's things going? Like compared to like the wreck she was in the game version when she came back, where she was traumatized by what she did.
Hmm.
And I understand that they're taking her in a slightly different direction, but it's just like I don't feel that there is a enough of a deeper dive into really what she's feeling compared to just what's on the surface. I don't know if that's just me.
No, 100%. We'll definitely get more into Ellie because there's a lot to cover on that.
Yeah. So instead of going step by step, what would you say are the things that you really enjoyed about the episode?
Okay. So, hmm.
And what are
I
the
th
changes that you really liked? Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that they kept true. Like I was nervous that they weren't going to kill Jesse. I was almost nervous they weren't going to do it. So I'm happy they kind of stayed true to that. Even though things like played out slightly different, they kind of ended up the same in a way, like
I
her
mean,
and
his
Jesse
his
going back
literal
out.
death is one to
Yeah, like
one.
her and
Yeah, that's
Jesse end up going back out again, which does happen, and them separating and her choosing to go after Abby again.
yeah,
That does happen. So I like that they stuck with that. I like that they stuck with sadly Jesse dying, but it's all part of the story. And then the whole thing with Owen and Mel, um, I kind of like how they played it in the show because in the game, I don't recall her trying to save the baby. I think she just killed Mel right away.
well,
So
I mean,
I,
there's a lot of different things we can talk about, but go ahead. So, I'm sorry, I
yeah.
didn't mean to cut you off.
But for me, I think, ironically, usually I feel like the game handles everything better. But in this one instance, I think the show, I literally cried. Like I was tearing when Mel was like saying her last words. I was like, holy shit. Like she's aware, like she was still alive, and like
Yeah.
Ellie was like freaking out. I thought it was done pretty well.
I'm still trying to fight with, and again, we're gonna have to see what happens in the season three stories of a lot of those characters. But I'm still somewhat, and again, this is not me trying to say that they shouldn't have changed things, but I'm still trying to fight with the fact that Mel is so different in the TV show than she was in the game, because Mel in the game next to Nora is probably the most uh vengeful and just blatantly realistic out of all of them, and she's not a sweet type of person. And granted, there's things that are being done to her in the background, which I'm not going to try and take away from that character and all, but like she's much more of a not bad. I don't want to say that word, but like she's much more of a twisted person than the TV show version is. So I'm still trying to come to grips with that in general. Um, Sorry if my camera just froze for a second. um, but um, but I here's my thing. I'm waiting for them in the third season to now give us some other explanation or to or somewhere in some interview to explain why. All right, well, I'll ask it this way. Let me ask it this way to you before I say it. When Mel was asking Ellie to take the baby out, do you think she was literally asking her to try and save the baby because the baby was like about to be due or something, or do you think it was her just like, oh, I'm dying, save the, and she's like kind of like in the mental state of I don't know what to do, take this from me.
Um, I think like kind of like how like it plays out in the game, like you had no idea she was, so that was like a major shocker.
For Ellie,
So
that is. For
she,
Ellie, that we the
yeah.
player, yeah, yeah.
So I feel like she looked kind of big when she was on the ground, where it was like she could be almost near.
Well, that's where in my issue lies because if it was literal, where she was so close to birth that you could remove the baby and the baby would still be premature, whatever you want to call it, and living. There was a 3 month time jump from when they were in Jackson killing Joel to that point. So you're telling me the Mel in Jackson was 5 to 6 months pregnant? I don't think so.
Hmm.
No fucking way. You would have been showing, and she was not showing at all. Um, so that's what I'm like so confused by it. Like, was that like just her mental state of dying, trying to think of like, oh, but even then, like at 3 months, she shouldn't have been that big. If it was a newer pregnancy, it's like it's a weird thing to think about. And at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world, but it is very strange to me that with that way they did in the TV show that changed around the timeline. So I don't feel how her pregnancy fits in. Kind of didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Hmm.
Again, small thing, but I was bothered by it. And it also like there's like for Ellie's reaction, that all works perfectly. Whether it's the game version, the TV version, all this other stuff. Um, but it just felt like it was I have to see how they're gonna play out Mel and Owen and all of them in,
Yeah.
in season three before I can really talk about it. Unfortunately, it's tough to talk about, but there's parts of it that feel that like until I get all that information, which is for a lot of people who don't know the game too. With I've seen a few people reacting, going like, "Well, how do you find him so fast?" Well, and of course it's obviously different than they did in the game a little bit because we won't say it exactly yet, but there's clearly a difference there. Or like trying to find out like oh what is this island that they're going to, all that other stuff. Like people have to wait for answers for things, but I think there's enough information what they give us in this to make me feel awkward about the whole pregnancy part of Mel's story before I even learn about what else is going on in the third season. But until I hear a lot of that, I don't want to say too much, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to see how they cover Abby's side and her whole team, the Fireflies and becoming wolves, all of it.
What is your thoughts on um the decision, and from what I understand, I didn't realize this, but I understand this originally they had planned this for the video game, they just didn't do it. But what are your thoughts on the whole thing with when Ellie's boat capsizes, she ends up on the island with the Seraphites?
So I have three kind of like, I don't know if I want to call them gripes, but little things that I was like, eh. So first, I'll come back to that in a second. But first, how Ellie said it was easy to kill Nora.
Mm.
Well, she said she didn't kill her, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
To get info out of Nora. I didn't like that because it didn't feel like Ellie. Because in the game, while we're doing it, we're like taken aback. Like it's not so vengeful. If it was like vengeful, but it was also like
You can see her
she
fighting with the idea
you
before
saw
she
her
does it. Yeah.
struggling. Yeah, you saw her like, oh, like it hurt her to kill her. So with this, it was a little annoying because she's like, yeah, I did it. Like that kind of attitude. Like it was like, I don't know what they're doing with Ellie because there's some points where she doesn't seem like Ellie,
Yeah,
and
I mean
some
they've
points where she does.
it almost feels that, like, to your point, and I hope, again, this is, we try not to spoil things, and this is not spoiling specific, but to your point, have you said in the past how when you finished the game you felt differently about Ellie and then differently about Abby and all this other stuff? But it feels like there are it feels like they've tried to purposely swing Ellie's character very purposely and
Mm-hmm.
openly in a different direction, because if they did it a little more silently and nuanced, it wouldn't come across and people wouldn't have gotten it, I guess. I'm not sure. And again, this all depends on what we see in the future. Um, but it does fit with the way they've taken her. I guess. But I just don't. I just prefer the version of her that is technically a more mature in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
and b, yeah, struggles with this stuff a lot more than TV version Ellie seems to be.
And then back to the whole island part, that also bothered me because I was like, what the hell is happening? At first, I was nervous that they were going to pull an Abby scene.
Oh, because they. I mean, there's. I guarantee you, when we get to that, that's going to be the same woman. There has to be.
Yeah.
There's no reason to cast somebody that looks exactly, if not maybe the same actress who did the motion capture. I don't know.
Hmm.
I have to look that up.
Yeah.
There's no way that that's not the same
Because I
woman
was
later
like,
on.
what is happening right now? It felt kind of like they're trying to like I've mentioned this episodes before where they're like trying to introduce more of like the scars and more of like the wolves and more of Isaac like in little places. But it felt like a very weird scene. And I'm always going back to like, of course they have to take out hours of gameplay, but they could have showed a little more of her fighting. Like she did kind of struggle to get to the boat a little bit with humans and the I'm blanking out right now. The dead. But she they kind of like skipped over a lot of that and
Well, I
then
mean,
they
it's
were
good to
just
not have it in
like
a mall. Like, I like that. That's in the game. That's just that took part in a mall randomly that happened to be
yeah.
flooded, so the boat was in it. Like, that's fine, but yeah,
Like I get they have to cut hours of gameplay, but it was just weird. Like she just like arrived in this island for like 2 seconds. It was just it felt kind of forced.
yeah. And while they're close, in essence, the TV show makes it feel much closer than the game did. I
Yep.
just feel that whole thing, whether or not you planned on that in the game and decided to bring it back like that, it seems like it was a waste of time. It was so pointless.
Hmm.
Granted, you can pull whatever thematic strings you want to tie them together, but it's not necessary. It's 100% not necessary. It was just basically to, like, it seems that, like, they wrote an episode that was too short, and they had to bump up the time a little bit, so they added that to it, and it's just like, even as a video game person, if you were to do that to me, it was like, oh, I have to go back and like do a Metroid thing where I'm going back and forth. Like in a Last of Us style game, that would have been super annoying. I'd be like, why are we doing this?
Hmm.
And then they do it in the TV show, and it just seems so pointless. And granted, then I guess it's them trying to ramp up to there is not gonna, as far as the TV show goes, there are technically not as many parallel moments that you can pull from compared to the game as to what's going on Abby's side to what's going on Ellie's
Hmm.
side at the time. So I guess it's adding in an extra piece to find out, like, oh, so they can prep people for when.
We
Again,
get
I'm
there.
sorry, everybody, but I'm just gonna say the burning of Haven. I mean, you saw the fucking explosion. It's like, um, but that what bothers me about that too is like in the game world, like, all right, so first of all, I'm sorry, I'm backing up a little bit because I'm going to use this point to feed into that. So a yeah, they did stick to their guns and kill Jesse, but they still saved Shimmer. Shimmer's still alive, and people who didn't play the game, sorry, Shimmer died a long time ago. That horse blew up and they got shot in the head. That horse is dead. Um, Obviously not in the show version. Schumer's just living his life in a record store, but also means no Alice because there was no Alice when Ellie got to Owen and Mel, which means there's not going to be there may be an Alice in Abby's storyline, but that immediate like oh shit I just killed that dog and I was it was like oh it was trying to kill me and now I have to love that thing. That's like a central point almost. And granted, it doesn't make much sense though in the terms of how come Owen and Mel never heard the dog barking. So maybe Thunder could have covered it in the game version. So like I'm fine with those things. I'm not gonna kill myself that Alice wasn't there. But they showed, and here's why I won't say specifics, but they showed all that surgery stuff in the aquarium. Now, as a person who plays the game, it's not like you get like oh here's what happened last time on the last episode or last season in case you forgot. And so when you find out what really happened, it's like oh okay. And now I feel it's going to be like the TV show is just going to have like oh before you watch the episode remember this from last season. And it's just like it takes away again from the mystique and the intrigue and the mystery by just having to cue shit up. And the fact that they've had to queue up the stuff that happens on the island a little bit makes it feel like it doesn't have the same impact. And granted, I don't know. I'm not the type of person who hasn't. I played the game, so I know. So I don't know how many other people are going to feel about it. But I feel like a lot of the impact is being sucked out of this story.
Hmm. No, I completely agree with that because I feel like there's just too much exposition. They have to spell everything out for the TV viewer, and it's really annoying. But it's also taking away from the nuance of like questioning morals and questioning right and wrong. Like they kind of touched upon it a little bit forcefully with Jesse and Ellie's kind of like conversation about like what's good and what's bad. And it just felt like also back to what you were saying before with Ellie, like the whole thing with saving the Seraphite, it just felt forced like they're trying to say Ellie's a good person.
Yeah, I mean, and this they also had to shoehorn in one more scene with the one dude for
Yeah.
I don't see. I mean, granted, I'm sure in the third season they'll come into. It's obviously clearly not though my original idea, which was that guy and Owen had an issue. Well, they may, but that's not going to be the case, obviously, in the TV show version, because of that by that point Owen's he's in the aquarium.
Mhm.
But there's also like again changes are made, and I'm glad, and I love the fact that so many people were able to love Jesse the way that we as gamers did. But I also feel that they almost do Jesse a disservice by making him so hard headed about certain things. Great, he still can be, but that's not Jesse to me. Jesse's
And they had
always
to be
level
like, "Oh,
headed
I voted no."
and doesn't
Like
yell. Well, it does. I was right though. He definitely did vote no.
he did.
But it's just like it seems like there's like it's too much. And great, he should be. I'm not saying he shouldn't be, especially in what they present in the versions of the TV show. But it just seemed like I mean, and I'm not trying to say you have to do everything exactly the same, but there were certain lines from the game that they did in the first season. They all those lines they used them because they're like killer fucking lines.
Hmm.
And then we come to season two or part one of part two, you know what I mean? And it's like there are certain things there, but they're changed a little bit, and then they just completely leave out some of like
The
the
most
best lines.
iconic
I mean,
lines.
I'm sorry, like Jesse going like, "Oh, you'd burn the world down to save me." Yeah, it's nice and all, but it's completely different than the level-headed, just like quiet Jesse going like, "Hey, my friend's problems are my problems," and then Ellie telling me he sounds like an idiot. He's like, "Well, my friends just can't get out of their own damn way." Like that's the game. That's the story. That's the theme. I'm sorry. That's part of it, and you just like take it all out because the version of Ellie burning the world down to save him is a completely different thing, and uh, it just seems like the a lot of the points that the game was trying to make are just being taken out of the story. And like you and I have discussed, it's not that we want the same exact thing. We don't want just a replication,
Hmm.
but the way the game made us feel when we were done with it, and I'm sure this is not just us, I'm sure there's a lot of people. I want people to feel that same thing.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, I feel that the way the show is presenting it is they're not going to feel that. They'll make me feel the same things and make it the same ideas, but it's not going to feel the same way whatsoever. And You don't have to have that in life. There are plenty of people who are never going to see certain things and they're never going to have those feelings. But I just want it's so powerful. I want people to feel it. I'm just scared they're not going to feel it.
Yeah, we keep touching on this, but the whole uh concept of them revealing it was Abby's dad and keep saying it and repeating it, it doesn't have the same effect it does as us finding that out so much later. Like that was like the mind blown moment. And like they keep, like I said, so much exposition and so much having to feed things to the audience is taking away from the overall feelings that we got from it. I cried playing this game. Like I like I guess I said this episode made me tear a little bit, but that's from also the trauma of playing that game.
Yeah. Well, and to your point too, again, so she says it again, and not only that, but she actually reveals all this information to Dina, which we don't know if Dina ever really knows in the game
Hmm.
version. She may have at one point. Well, I'm not going to say what happens, but she may have at one point said it. Um, excuse me, I'm going to cough. But it just seems like, and granted, they're obviously going to play into this at some point or another, so I can't really say much about it. But it feels awkward that they're having that conversation. And honestly, it also feels awkward, because it is a scene in the game with Ellie taking her shirt off and Dina washing her back from all the bruises and stuff like that. And again, I know Ellie's gone through some shit, but the shit she goes through in the show so far compared to what she goes through in the game, it's like that's her. Like that's her coming back. She's already feeling damage. She didn't have to have a talk with Dina first. She didn't come like, oh, what's going on? She's like, she's already feeling damage, and then you're seeing it physically compared to this version, which is like, oh, we're just going to show you that she's got some damage, compared
Hmm.
to it being an actual metaphor for the pain that she's going through mentally, just in a physical form. It feels less poetic. If that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, she still doesn't seem like traumatized enough. Like killing a pregnant woman.
Yeah, I mean, well, that was wait, but that was when she came back from doing from Nora.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the cleaning of her back. And they do. I do. They did. Here's a funny thing because they do the whole thing with Dina giving Ellie the bracelet, and I'll be honest with you, I never remember when that happens, or I remember actually. I mean, I know what happens in the game because I love people love talking about it. Like, oh, she's still wearing Dina's bracelet, or something like that. I could have sworn it happens like in the first like hour or two of the game. I can't really remember, so don't forgive me. But like, it's one of those things that I never really remember. But that's like a sticking point for a lot of people. So it's like that's also again, it feels like it's like just like pandering to the people. Not pandering because I want to be pandered to. Let's be real. But giving something to people who just played the game, but it's not. Is it really a necessity? I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
like it's not like a huge significant moment. Like there's so many other more significant moments to tackle.
um, I we will tread very lightly and not talk a lot about
Isaac?
um what's going on in terms of the technical perfect setup for recreating Abby and Ellie's confrontation in that final that quote unquote final scene because there is a little scene after. Um, but now here's the thing: I have to rewatch the episode, and I know this sounds like a small thing for a lot of people. Well, first of all, I will say that having the gunshot I don't see was necessary. I mean, clearly we'll see what happens when they pick it back up, but like because there's no gunshot. For everybody who hasn't played the game. That's pretty much exactly how it goes. They run out, Jesse gets shot. Ellie jumps up. She says, "I know why you killed Joel. He did it for me." Even though, again, in the game version, she says there's no cure because of me because she doesn't know anything about Jerry being Abby's dad. The
Hmm.
entirety of the entire story. Um, that whole thing is exactly the same except for there's no gunshot when it goes to black. But I'm pretty sure in the TV show, all Abby says is, "We let you live, and you ruined it." But in the game, she definitely says, and tell me if she said it in the show and I just forgot and missed it. She says, "You killed my friends." It's not even about previously. It's not even about the whole. She's like, you killed my friends. Because the video game version of Abby was just so much more confused by the whole thing. Because I think she only thought that Tommy was there. She didn't know Ellie was there.
Hmm.
I mean, she knew other people may have been there, but she had no idea that Ellie was going to be there, kind of thing. And when she realizes that, like she's kind of like, granted, Tommy, I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to ruin certain things. Um, but it just felt like there was a lot more confusion. And in that moment, it's just like, you killed my friends. I let you go and you wasted it. But the fact that she doesn't say you kill my friends, again, it's a small thing, but it feels like it just like, unless she did say it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody, if you remembered, Nadia, I'm not sure.
I
But
don't. I feel like I'm gonna have to go back and
I'm
rewatch
gonna have
that
to go back
scene.
and watch it. But I felt like it wasn't there, and I felt like it again. It's just that small little thing of just like it sucks. It's just taking everything down to its bare bones of this is revenge. You did this. I'm gonna do this. Compared to having a much more layered response to all of it. I don't. I'm babbling at this point. I'm lost in my own. I'm lost in my own thoughts. Um, did you have any thoughts else on that scene?
Uh, I feel like also because we knew what was coming, it wasn't as shocking.
Of course, yeah.
But I think it translated pretty well.
I mean, they got that bully hole perfectly matched
They
on
were also
Jesse's
there a little
face.
longer, I think. But also like in the game, it's probably like fast forwarded in a sense. But the scene,
You thought it was longer in the TV show.
yeah, when they
Hmm.
like the whole when they get back, I feel like it's pretty abrupt. Like, don't they just come in the door and she shoots him like right away? I'm trying to remember.
What do you mean exactly? I'm lost, I guess.
Like when they come back in the show, Ellie and Jesse had like an hour long conversation. Not an hour long, but they
Oh
had a
no,
really long
I think it was longer.
conversation.
I think it was longer in the game, and this is gonna be very sad. But I can probably recite you the entire dialogue between the three of them, because there's also the whole joke about like, oh, what are you gonna do, Maria, when Maria finds out, and she's like, oh, well, I passing through this ritzy section, I found this thing, I think it's real gold,
Oh,
and
I
they're
forgot
basically
about all
joking.
that.
They had that whole conversation, and then Ellie and Jesse have the conversation with the different dialogue, but it's the same kind of conversation. Um, I feel it was longer in the game, honestly,
Hmm.
than it was in the show. But I mean, it wasn't like 10 times or
Yeah.
it was very minimal. Um, I will say that I am, and here, so I've already seen like one or two people react to the episode who have not played the game, and there's already one person who didn't even understand what they meant when Seattle Day One came up. I was like, what does that mean? Is that the first day that Abby showed up at the camp? Is it the first day after Abby killed Joel? It's like I mean, I'm not just like you don't have to be a video game person or somebody play the game. I think to find that obvious, but I'm already seeing people confused by that,
Hmm.
and so like I feel that like again, it's just like for all these things they feel like they're prepping for people who haven't played the game to deal with. I feel like they shouldn't have worried about it. I think they should have just went ahead and not tried to circumvent. And I understand again the argument about trying to protect Caitlin Deaver and all this other stuff. I'm not trying to say that I want anything bad to happen to anybody. I'm actually also a little annoyed that so many people say that it was only um, Laura Bailey who got death threats. The woman who gave her face model to Abby got death threats. All she was just a face model, and she got death threats. Um, but it's one of these things that it's just like I just feel like it would have been like I want to talk directly to people who never played the game and just kind of like because I had one person comment on something saying like, oh, so you guys didn't know about her dad until at the middle of the whole story? It's like I much would rather prefer a mystery trying to find that out than anything else. And they're still enjoying the show too.
Yeah.
Like it just seems like such a backwards thing. I'm sorry if it gets really dark in here. The sun's going.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the episode was shot dark. That was something too.
Oh, it was? Oh, it looked fine for me, I think.
I felt like the whole boat scene was pretty like Game of
Anyway,
Thrones dark.
I mean, it was, but they were playing true to it, like no lights until you get to the Seraphites with all their torches and all that other fun stuff. But yeah, I mean, again, because we knew there were going to be changes made, and I know there were going to be changes, and we've already said their names, so I don't think it's going to be that big of a spoiler, even if you don't know who they are. But we weren't sure, but they clearly are going straight down the line with having Yara and Lev there. There's no doubt about that now. Um, and there's no doubt that something's gonna happen to Yara. And that's not anything specific, people, but um, But anyway, it's just like it just I don't know. What are your overall thoughts of just the season alone?
Well, I briefly want to touch on how did you
Oh,
feel about the Isaac thing? That scene was a little strange to me.
well, I'm more bothered, but I don't mind it. I don't care. I actually just don't really care. I'm like, great, you did that. You tried to give people a reason to why Isaac's going to care about Abby, kind of thing. But I don't think this is going to be ruining anything by talking about it. Tell me if you're trying, like, wave your hands and yell real loud if you think I should stop talking, because we haven't had the full discussion yet. We have talked about it, and a lot of people talked about Abby not having her muscles in the TV show. But I know I've mentioned that bothers me because game version of Abby, and granted, you necessarily don't learn this until what will probably happen in season three, but I don't think it's a spoiler in any way whatsoever. Is the fact that Abby is known as Isaac's top scar killer. She is like, she's the super soldier. She's the one that just goes out and just rampages everything. And why I'm still bothered by the whole no muscles thing is like, granted, I'm fine for changes, but there's a certain part of that character is the idea that Isaac took all of her anger and all of her rage from her father dying, and he physically weaponized it. He
Hmm.
turned her into a weapon. Now, granted, you can turn somebody into a weapon without having muscles, but there is this idea of how extreme it is by seeing that. And so I don't know how they're going to present it in the third season ultimately, because clearly here they drop it as like, oh, she's important because she's the person I think should lead us after I'm gone, kind of thing. Um, and granted, they could do a lot of nice things with the theme playing through that when it comes to it, but I just feel like it was unnecessary. I feel like they needed to have an explanation because they're going to show them they were going to show the wolves heading to the island. So they kind of had to have like a tie-in, so they decided to put that there. I just don't really think it was necessary, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like some scenes were like too condensed and some scenes were like unnecessary.
That's like the whole season. I think so many
Yeah.
things are just like thrown in and they're like bite sizes. And again, I'm not trying to compare it now just to season one, but that's what was so great about the adaptation of season one is they were willing to do entire episodes just focusing on one thing, or two episodes just focusing on one thing. And I understand that it's a little more difficult with this story and they have to be more intertwining per se, but you again, because for people who haven't played the game, you hear the name Isaac, you know about the Seraphites, you know that there was a truce and it was broken before you meet, before you do the whole
Mhm.
mid-game switch. Um, but you could have done that here. You could have done, and I would again. I'm not trying to say that my version would be the best version or like that, but I really thought it was going to be when Ellie finally meets the Seraphites, you would just kind of get that backstory and see Isaac's story himself first, which would I think would have been a great way so you can introduce him before the third season, but in the same breath play on all of those themes of the cycles of violence and wondering who's right, who's wrong. And again, this a large part of the theme I want to talk about, but I can't until it's over. And I don't want to get into like the real deep, real world aspects of this stuff until we get to that point. But I feel that just piecemealing all these things through the season just didn't work.
I think it should have been 10 episodes at least. Because like you mentioned, like with the first season, I think they translated it phenomenally. I wrote a whole thing about like not necessarily just comparing, but what the show improved on or enhanced for the story. Like the whole Frank and Bill episode was phenomenal. And like they gave these characters like so much depth and purpose that like it really worked well. With this season, I feel like they're struggling to kind of like introduce all the pieces. I know it's probably very hard to translate because especially Abby's the entire next section. So I like that they split that into
Yeah,
a third season. Like that made perfect sense. But I still feel like we should have at least gotten 10 episodes. They could have focused a little bit more on breaking things down and like not, like I said, like condensing so many of the important moments and like sprinkling things like Easter eggs, like just to make us happy. Meanwhile, I would have preferred, like you said, like some of the iconic lines, some scenes I think would have worked better if they copied it from the game. And then I feel like the first episode, they had that whole attack on Jackson to be like, here, be happy. There's some fighting too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, because the whole argument about there weren't enough infected. I'm like, you know what? I mean, I get that. I get people who were upset a little bit about that, but in the same breath, I just didn't care. Here's what I will say this very quickly because we never talked about this. Because again, a lot of the changes in this first season, I enjoyed and I thought were well done and more important. I do have two things in the first season that they're minor in essence, but they're the changes I didn't like, which is A, I didn't like the fact that it was infected that come after you when Tess gets bit and sacrifices herself, compared to in the game when it was actually Fedra. Because
hmm
the idea is like, granted, I know all these infected are coming and they know where they are, but all you have to do is you've already left. They know where to stop. They know you're in that room there. Stop, and they're going to search around. If you're left, it would have. So something about her fighting against something that was a little more sentient felt like it actually had more power to it. And that's again minor thing. Don't really care, but I just think it works better that way. And the other thing is Ellie drowning in the game in the first one because I like the idea that the entire time she's at the Fireflies, she was never conscious. The idea is in the game for people who never played it, um, Ellie drowns and because she can't swim in a tunnel, in a flooded tunnel right outside the hospital, and Joel's trying to resuscitate her when they come and grab them. The Fireflies come and grab them. And the idea is they take Ellie into surgery where she was never awake. She never got to officially wake up. They saved her life so she was still alive, so they can perform surgery on her. Um, but she was never conscious. And when they came to the show and they're like, "Oh, it's okay, we didn't tell her anything," I felt it works better with the idea that she was never conscious. There's just something about that plays so much more heavily into the
hmm
idea of nobody gave her the choice kind of thing.
No,
Um,
that makes complete sense.
yeah, so like those are technically minor things compared to the changes they make here, which again, for people who've never played it, they don't know necessarily, or they're just going along with the story. And I'm not saying they shouldn't enjoy it, and I'm not saying I don't enjoy it, but there is something that feels like they've missed so many marks by changing certain things that didn't need to be changed, and or could have been changed with a different style, I guess. I don't mind. Like I said, I think having Jackson attacked, but it was actually a good idea if they were going with this with, and it still works in the version they did with the 3 month time jump here about oh well, we're still rebuilding, but the idea is in the game it's like the next day, and so it gave him more of an explanation of like, you know, you can't leave now. Are you serious? Are you fucking mad? That kind of thing. So that would have been great, but I think maybe the attack should have been not as crazy. It still could have been crazy. They still could have breached the walls, kind of thing, but it just seemed like it was too much.
Yeah. It was like a
um,
battle of the bastards.
yeah, I mean, literally. Uh, well, not literally. You know what you all know what we mean. You know what I mean, so on and so forth. But yeah, it's just again, I'm gonna have to see where it goes. I'm gonna have to see. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know how the TV show version can do the things with Abby and make you feel the way we've all felt without having you like kind of like control her and stuff like that. And or go into certain depths because if they're going to change certain things like the way they changed them for Ellie, I just don't see how it works as well. I'm not saying it can't work. I just don't see how it can work as well.
I did like the way they showed after everything with Jesse when they showed Abby walking down the hallway. Like that gave me goosebumps. Like that looked like shot for shot and like overlooking the stadium.
Well, she was reading the same book. That's for sure. It was the City of Thieves. That's the same book she's
Like
reading
that
when
was
she wakes up in the
beautiful.
in the game. Um, Manny seems to be a little bit more of a turd than he was in the game, and I'm interested to see how that goes, especially since based on what we kind of saw and heard in this episode, there is going to be confrontation that we know about. I'm not saying between certain people, but it affects the way Manny is portrayed in the game. And I'm like, if that happens to Manny, you don't feel the same way about Manny you did in the game. Like it's I don't know. I don't understand the point of it. And
Yeah,
that's
they need to make sure to ace that. Like her whole crew in season three, they have to be able to portray like they're humans. Like even like you just mentioned with Alice, when you're petting Alice and like you're playing like with the dog and throwing the tennis ball, it's like this is a dog. This is a cute little dog.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like, I know I'm very much of the opinion. I'm not trying to put people down when they have these feelings or anything like that, but I don't understand people. And this also plays into very much another theme of the game. But I hate people who are just like, oh yeah, it was a great movie or a great show or a great game or whatever like that. But like, I took a point off because they made me kill an animal or they killed the dog. It's like I get it. I understand you don't want to see the dog die, but the whole point is that you care more about an animal, a fictional animal dying, than you do about a human being in real life sometimes. And like that's part of again this theme. And so it's not only just Alice, but it's like you go to get Alice in the game because they didn't kill any animals
Did
in.
they include the PlayStation girl, the PSP, the
No,
portable?
she wasn't in there at all. No.
Yeah, I was like,
But
there's little things.
no, but the thing is like in the season two so far in the season two, they didn't kill any animals whatsoever. There's one dog, Ellie didn't kill it because in the game the idea is that they built the game so you actually don't have to kill any animals, but it's very tough to go ahead. It's very
Well,
tough to
you
sneak
shoot
around.
the dogs all the time in the game.
Well, yeah, but you don't have to. The only dog you have to kill is Alice, technically, in the game. Um, Everything else that's not scripted, you do not have to kill any of those animals. But the idea
I've
is,
killed plenty of dogs in
oh,
the
I
game
killed, I killed plenty of them. Don't get me wrong.
because they sense you.
But in the whole thing about that same thing is like in the game, when Ellie's sneaking into the aquarium, she gets attacked by Alice. She kills the dog, and then again, when you take over as Abby, you go pick up the dog, and he's like, "Oh, sweet." But you also see Bear, which is the only other dog they gave a name to in the entire game, and
Mm.
it's the only other dog that was so tough that most everybody did kill Bear. And then you play fetch with Bear when you when you take over as Abby, and it's just like one of these things. It's just like again, it's a small thing. It's a small thing having those like immediate, and again, you're
But
stretching
I,
out, stretching it out over seasons, and who knows when we're gonna get season three. So
yeah.
it's not like you can do it immediately and then have it happen right away. Where in the game, it's like almost instant. Um,
But that's what made this game so special because like those small moments, like we play video games all the time where like you have to kill or you kill a person, kill an animal, kill an alien, kill a Marvel villain, whatever it is. This was the first time in a game where it flipped the script, you played the other side, and it humanized everything. So, like in a game, typically it's just a path. You just follow the path from A to Z. You want to win the game. You want to get all the collectibles. You want to get all the kills, do everything you got to do, and you don't think about the opponent in that way. But this game made you literally forced you to feel the other side. So as we said, like literally playing fetch with the dog, I was like, holy fuck. Like
oh
those
god, sorry.
moments, like the girl with the PlayStation, I don't think they included her.
Gosh,
But
no.
like when you kill this girl because she's in your way, you just shiver, you go about your way. But then in the Abby part, she's just a kid that likes video games. She's like, "Hey, how's it going, Ab?" Like, "Yeah, I'm trying to beat this game." And you're like, "Oh my God." Like you feel horrible.
But that's the other thing again with it being like the 7 episode season, which I'm not that upset about. I mean, granted, I do feel weird about it. I think they could have bumped up a little bit, and even if it was 8 episodes and just like
Hmm.
changed a few things around, made it a little different, or like every episode this season was a clear 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, they weren't even an hour long.
Yeah, and it's like wow, like you could have done a lot of important stuff in these little pieces you cut out, but it's the idea that, and this is where I think people watching the show, I'm interested to hear their thoughts compared to again people play the game because in the game world, again, it is just 3 days, four technically, I guess, when because everything that happens in Jackson. Um, but it's only or well, it's more time spans, but you're only spending 3 days in Seattle kind of thing. But you from the beginning of the game to the point you get to where the season ends is 15 hours. And that is 2 hours longer than the first game as a whole. So as a gamer, a lot of people are like, "Oh, we're at the end. Here it is. I'm going to get my revenge." For then to all of a sudden go, "Nah, sorry." But now you're gonna play as little Abby and learn about what happened because at that point you still. So again, for people who haven't played in the video game, the whole you kill my friends, we let you live, and you wasted it. Fade to black. It then comes fade into 4 years earlier flashback of Abby as a little girl not a little girl, I guess a teenager, and it shows you, then that's when you learn what really happened. And granted, I actually knew I it was ruined for me. I knew ahead of time, but it's still powerful witnessing it. And like, so you've come to this whole point where you're like, oh, I'm on this revenge video game, and here it comes my revenge. And then you're just like, no, sorry, you got a whole lot more to go, and you're probably not gonna like it, but guess what? You have to. Um, and I don't think you can get that feeling from the TV show.
Yeah, especially like we keep going back to them revealing and spelling everything out for you. I just hope they capture that nuance of like questioning who's right, who's wrong. Because like I said, like playing the game, I loved Abby and I was like, oh my God, this is the best storytelling I have ever seen in my life. Like,
Oh yeah, I'm not. I will hold certain things, but that is the one thing I will say. For as much as I knew about the game before ended up playing it finally, all of Abby's story I did not know about. Like I didn't know about all the stuff that happens in there. So I'm hoping that the same thing happens when people see this third season, and then again, I keep getting different reports, but what should be the fourth season at that point, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. Because it'll be very difficult if they do the third season, but then don't get picked up for the fourth season, and they don't get to show you like a lot of this extra aftermath, which is very important, extremely important. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm biting my tongue. Though I will wait till we do the super spoiler little discussion to end this episode off. Was there anything else before we get to the super spoiler stuff that you wanted to mention? I guess.
I think we kind of covered it. I think they did a good job on showing us Ellie and Jesse's friendship. I think they did a pretty good job on showing us Ellie and Dina's relationship and like how they started as friends and like grew feelings and they translated their relationship pretty well aside from a couple scenes which we were like, what was that? But aside from that, the overall context, I think that worked well. But always going back to the whole translating to the Abby section, we will find out next season.
We'll find out. And before we get to that, this is now everybody turn off. I mean, I don't think we have much because we already mentioned a lot of it, but this may be super spoiler discussion now. So if there's anything you don't want to hear, if you don't know about it, you can stop now. Um, I, so yes, starting now, super spoilers. Um, I've said this already, I think, and so hopefully I didn't spoil it for people in the past. And I know I've said this to you plenty of times, and I know I sound now again like an even more of a broken record. But it's just the idea. This is what I'm worried about because even people who love the game still always have this issue. And again, my issue, the fact that the way people fight over this game, it's fine to have discussion, discourse, but the way people fight over it is literally like the antithesis of what this game is trying to teach you.
Exactly.
um, but for all those people who just like, oh, well, I still don't give a shit about Jerry. It's like, all right, yeah, I'll let Ellie go. I'll let Abby. I like her and stuff like that, but I still rather, she didn't do that to Joel, and like if she dies, it's fine, whatever, blah blah blah, all this stupid shit. What people don't understand is that maybe Owen as well, but specifically Abby and Jerry, who is Abby's dad again, for people who don't know, they are like the antithesis of pure humanity. People see the Fireflies because the Fireflies was introduced to them as a terrorist group, and I still people told them it's like, oh, because a terrorist group wanted to kill Ellie, that's why you did it, blah blah blah. Whether or not factions of the Fireflies did change into something or did things, the original idea of the Fireflies was to try and bring back humanity to what it was. And Abby and her father, Abby post her father's death, I should say, and then later on as the game ends, she gains that side of her back, just want to see good in the world. And they are the most humane people. I'm sorry. I know it sounds weird for people who just see her do all this stuff. It's like Abby and her dad, but Abby specifically is a better person, just as a person, than almost anyone else in the fucking game, in the world, whatever you want to call it. She is the better person, and that's just the way it goes. And I don't know if they're gonna be able to translate that for this show. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, she literally was like a goody two shoes. She was like scared to break the rules and like, she was like she was a happy like go lucky kid and like I don't want to get too into like the introduction of her game part, but you see her relationship with her father and how happy they were and just wanting to be good people and like that whole scene, like just her and her dad was like a wake-up call of like humanity and like even with the world like falling apart and going to shit, they still had humanity. And then like seeing that broken, that was like the wake-up call playing this game.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about the whole. Again, they've played into it a little bit so far. We'll see how they translate it. But why it was important to me about the idea of the dream sequences in the game, even though there are no really sequences, you mainly just see, for the most part, you see Abby waking up just like out of a nightmare, and then you
Hmm.
finally see, like it's after everything's done, and you know, it's Manny waking her up in the show and in the game. It's like she gets shocked out of it, but in the show, it's because he slams open this door. And in the game, it's like him quietly waking up, but it's her just still jolting because she's coming still out of that nightmare. Even though Joel is gone and her mission accomplished, quote unquote, she's still having the nightmare because it didn't do anything for her. It did not fix the issue. It did not make her forget about what happened. It did not bring her humanity back. It still consists, and it just gestates into other things that are going on in her life. So she leaves Yara and Lev, thinking like, oh, they'll be okay. And instead of now her father, she's still having the same nightmare, but it's Yara and Lev in that room. And it's when she finally saves them, does that burden get lifted, and she realizes like this is the person I was supposed to be. I remember now. I'm the person who's supposed to help people, and it brings her back. And we're gonna have to talk about this
Yeah, we gotta wait
season
till
three.
next season.
I'm getting so far into it, but like it's just like it's really powerful stuff, man. I don't know how well the show's gonna be able to translate it. Yeah, that's that. I'm gonna shut up now. Any other notes before we go?
Uh, I don't know. I don't feel the same like overall enthusiasm I felt with the first season. The
I
first
agree.
season, I was like, "Oh, this is the best thing." This one, I'm like, it was good. Maybe solid seven, um, if a seven for me. But I feel like it all pertains to how they handle the next season. That's really just the main thing. If
I
they
agree as
if they
well.
execute that, then I can go back and say, okay, this made sense. But as of now, where it is, I'm concerned. I enjoyed it. I think some scenes translated well, some didn't. The sets were beautiful and phenomenal. Like some sets were straight out of the game where it was like they literally it was like perfect,
Yeah.
like down to the trees. Like everything looked perfect. Um, like we love the characters. I've grown to like Bella Ramsey more. I've grown to like Caitlyn. I've grown to like I love the character who played the actress that plays Dina. I think the casting was done well. I like the actor for Jesse. We'll have to see how they handle Owen and the rest going further, but it's solid for me, but it's not perfection. It's far from.
I will say that I'm extremely interested to see who gets cast for Lev at this point. I know when they first started the show, the kid who played Lev in the game wanted to play the character, and he was already too old, or they were too old, excuse me. Um, when the show started, like now it's like he's way too old to play Lev at
Yeah.
this point. But they may have him as a guest star at some point or other. I'm not sure. But that's the other thing I will mention. But again, talking about them trying to piecemeal in pieces of the story is that like I watched these two people reacting to the show, and they're like, oh, I hope we learn who the prophet is this show. And like, first of all, but they're talking as if like they were talking as if they think that the prophet is alive, which they clearly in the show said that they're no longer with us. They've said in the show the prophet's dead, but these people still think that the prophet's alive.
Yeah, weren't they like, oh, there's multiple?
And then yeah, but then Ellie saw a different drawing. She's like, oh, there are multiple in this episode. But not only that, but like there are people. I'm not trying to say that any credence should be given to these theories. But like it was confusing to me because they think that the prophet A is alive, so it has to be somebody we introduced to. So they were fighting over whether it was Alana Olbach's character from the Wolves, or if get this, I don't know where this fucking thought came to somebody's mind. Catherine O'Hara was the prophet. The Gale from Jackson, Wyoming, excuse me, was the prophet. Hello? What? What's
What are you
wrong with
watching?
what is going on in your brains? But yeah, I mean, like, granted, maybe they'll do a backstory of how the prophet created the religion and got they may if they do, fine, we'll see how it goes. But the whole point is that it doesn't fucking matter.
Matter.
Doesn't matter. And that's why like everybody gets so attached to these. We've talked about them all already. Gale and Seth, and, like everybody's like that's the other thing too. Like they played up their characters more. Well, made up one character and played up Seth's character more. But it's like again the whole Alana Allback thing. Is she? I mean, I'm sure she'll be in the third season, but it feels like they just hired a name to be in like two scenes, and it's like they make it feel so important. Is it important? I don't think so. I mean, she's not in the game. Something they made up for the
It's
show.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, I feel like it's weird that like there's all these award talks for like big names in the show that are in it for like 5 seconds. Like,
Well, I mean, for guest starring, right? I mean, that's what they usually, that's the problem though. The problem this year is that because of their screen time, technically Pedro Pascal and Caitlin Dever would be guest appearance nominations.
hmm. Well, that makes more sense, but I'm talking about I keep forgetting his name. The actor that played his father.
I think Tony Dalton should get a guest appearance nomination for that. Absolutely.
I don't know. I feel like
People said
other
the same, but same
shows,
people said the same thing in the first season. I mean, she didn't get nominated, but people wanted the woman who played the doctor, the mycologist, in the second episode in
but I feel like that's just why they're throwing in big
Jakarta.
names for these characters that essentially don't have any context to the story. Like at least Bill and Frank added context to the story. Like he was kind of just an unnecessary scene just to make
Oh
a
no, I
story
agree.
for
Unnecessary
Joel.
scene. I thought he did a good job with it though.
Yeah.
That's my where I'd say, hey, Tony Dalton, yeah, sure. I also find it funny that that's your. I mean, I always hate. I not hate it, but I always kind of get caught up in these things where people like only know people from like certain things. Because you say you know Tony Dalton from Hawkeye, but you know that most of the world all were saying like, oh my God, that's Lalo Salamanca from Better Call Saul. Uh, that's where
He's
everybody
not
that's where
in.
everybody really knows
Oh
him
wait. Oh
from.
my God, duh. Holy
That's
shit.
Lalo.
I forgot. Oh
Um,
my God.
yeah, yeah.
That's nuts. I forgot that's him.
But that's also why I love people like him because he goes like from playing like the joyous madman to the red
To like,
herring fun guy to the deep dad. It's like that's the kind of that's what I want in an actor. I don't want somebody to just play the same thing over and over again.
yeah.
Not to say other people don't. That's what I love about a lot of people. But it's great to see him. It's great to see him go back and forth. Yeah. So I think that's it. I think we've been in shambles over everything, and we are in shambles, and we'll probably be in shambles when you meet us next time to talk about more of The Last of Us. Thanks all for joining us. See ya.